today, you have one of the most beloved characters in all of the fitness industry, Dr. Pat Davidson, author, musclehead, meathead, former MMA fighter. This guy's done it all. He's an incredible person to have on here. I'm really excited to have him on here. He's got an incredible story, and I think that he's going to change your perception about a lot of things that involve the world of fitness. So, strap it. Dr. Pat Davidson, thank you so much for coming on board.
You're very welcome, Garnett. I'm really looking forward to this.
This is going to be a fantastic conversation.
I mean, it already has been.
I mean, it never isn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. Our vibes have been immaculate since day one, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking to a fellow WWE superstar, and we're cutting a promo.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
What's going on?
Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. For all you folks out there in the internet land, what you're gonna do, brothers and sisters, what you're gonna do when the world's largest arms go wild on you.
God damn, that was good. That was so good. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, so that's a good solid
That's
intro.
a good solid intro.
I'm sweating now.
Yeah,
Of course, I was sweating before this anyways.
What was you doing before this?
I had coffee maybe an hour ago.
That
Just
was
kind of continues the chain reaction after that.
It didn't take much for us at our age,
Not
doesn't it?
particularly, no. Yeah. All I have to do is just conjure an unpleasant thought in my head.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the juices going.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're well known. So let's get right to it. You're really well known in our among trainers. Can you tell the folks at home exactly who you are and what you're all about, baby?
Poof, man. Yeah. So I'm Pat Davidson, and I don't even know, I try to tell people what my job is at this point.
Right.
I've kind of just gone completely virtual at this point in time. But my kind of history has been that I worked as a professor for 5 years. I was at Brooklyn College, and then I went to Springfield College. I've competed in sports for my whole life, really. After I played baseball up till college, and then after that, I got into jiu-jitsu and
Awesome.
Muay Thai and MMA.
I didn't know that, Pat.
Yeah,
That's awesome,
so we
man.
have a. Yeah, I mean, you don't get these years just looking at the mat.
Facts.
Facts.
What were you a professor of at Brooklyn College?
Exercise science.
Oh, sick.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I taught exercise physiology, and I was kind of creating a strength and conditioning program over there. I was only there for 2 years, though.
Okay.
You know? It was actually a pretty good fit. I just didn't know it at the time.
Well, hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah, sometimes you're after prestige in life, and you don't realize when you're in a good place.
Facts. How old were you when that happened?
I started there when I was 29.
Wow, really? You taught exercise science at 29 years old. That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
So what led you towards teaching trainers, just going straight to the neck, right?
So, I kind of looked at what direction do I want to bring my career, and I got into exercise science formally when I was 24.
Okay.
And prior to that, I had been just an athlete, really, and I was still competing and in the fight sports at that time. And I got into graduate school for exercise science, almost more for selfish reasons than anything. I wanted to learn just anything I possibly could to take my physical development as far as I could.
That's awesome, man. That's the true path of a martial artist, I believe. You
Yeah.
know? Did you? So which ones did you compete in? You competed in BJJ and Muay Thai?
I never did a Muay Thai fight, but I did a couple of MMA fights.
Really?
I did gi and no gi submission wrestling.
Awesome, man.
So, yeah, it was like a whole chapter of my life.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's the one thing on my bucket list that I have not competed in.
Is the jiu-jitsu or the
BJJ
MMA.
and MMA.
Yep.
I started rolling a few years ago at Henzo's, but then I found out they apparently fascists. So I kind of left, and then it's a thing. They really are in support of the Brazilian president over there, and the ideals that go along with it, not liking people of color, not liking gay people, treating women a certain way.
Yeah.
So that ideal, you wouldn't think that would be part of a martial arts, the biggest martial arts family in the world, but that stigma is very, very much so there, and it became apparent during the Black Lives Matter protests last year, when you saw these pro police brutality posts, and Henzo quoting Hitler on Twitter, and like it was like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it got intense. So a lot, me and my, my fellow, that's why we have the group here that does martial arts here, the Antifa Fight Club. We just like, we want a safe space for everyone to train. So
I had no idea. There's a lot of
people don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, man. But that's why I don't, I don't go over there anymore. I still have MMA, like pro MMA friends that like there's only one game in town to train, right?
Yeah.
That's the dilemma that they're in. They're, how am I gonna work on my skills and eventually fulfill my dream and my destiny without having to relocate to another state?
Yeah, wow.
A lot of my friends have just left. Shout out to Angela Hill. Angela's a really good friend of mine. She's in the UFC, one of the best fighters in her division, strawweight division. And she had to move to North Carolina for like 3 years until she finally found a space with Dominic Cruz over in what was it, San Jose? No, San Diego.
Okay.
So yeah, man, that's my whole passion right now. That's why it's just to just provide a safe space.
Yeah.
But that's really cool, man. That's a true martial arts journey. That's my goal as well.
Yeah.
Is to see how far I can take myself.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a couple of primary paths in life,
Right.
There's like the disciplined developmental path.
Right.
And then there's the path of acceptance and surrender.
That's right.
And, they're both equally valid, beautiful paths, and they can ultimately kind of come together. But, while I'm here, I feel like I've been on this disciplined path towards development for a long time. And it takes very interesting turns,
Oh yeah, man. I think that the martial arts and the lifting is just a catalyst to express oneself throughout the journey, to solidify oneself in your mind. Because I think this is all just a reflection of what's happening inside anyway, right? We can fortify ourselves out here, but it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't translate in here.
Yeah.
And if you can't give it to people.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I've been at various points in my life that have really significantly lacked direction and a sense of purpose and have been like really hopeless points.
Yeah.
And trying to create some sort of vision or pathway that can be reached via discipline is something that I feel like I've kind of consistently gone back to in my life. And you'll always be presented with like different variations of challenge on those fronts.
Right.
But to me, like maintaining some structure that is built around sort of self-care, self-improvement is something that I think is never going to do you wrong. It's always something that you can kind of fall back on.
Right.
And if you're able to kind of keep yourself in check and put one foot in front of the other in an appropriate manner, even during the worst of times, you'll eventually kind of move yourself through it. And I don't know, like I think that the real people that you're going to connect with that are going to become like, I don't know, like your tribe, are the ones that will see that at the times where you're at your lowest and respect the fact that like, hey, no matter what, this dude is never going to be somebody that gives up.
Right.
Is never going to be somebody that like just packs it in and doesn't follow this, whatever kind of path it might be.
Right. That's like literally my moniker, man. Like that's literally like people ask me like my favorite Marvel superhero for the movies. I always say Cap, and they're like, to explain that to someone is like what is his superpowers? His superpowers are he doesn't give up.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Yeah.
Forget about the costume and all that. He just doesn't quit, and that is such a huge component to building and fortifying that strength that people are looking for. That they're trying to find it by getting muscles in the gym or like status or clout. But there's only one way to get it, and that's through discipline. Like you said, that's the one thing you can fall back on, I believe. You know what I mean? Everything else is going to shit. If you have discipline, you can move forward into any terrain,
And getting status amongst people that don't know you or don't understand what you're all about, that's like one of the most meaningless things that could ever happen.
100%. Why do you think it is that that's such a major focus in our society right now? It's like having the adoration of people that don't even know you.
Because it's, I think we probably come into the world having no idea about the concept of I want this thing, other than survival-based things.
Right.
And then you only learn to want things because someone else wants something. And then as more people want that thing, it becomes more desirable. but it's like almost a very arbitrary kind of a thing that determines like that which other humans want. And it's just this self-perpetuating, creating its own momentum sort of a concept.
Absolutely.
And like, so trying to separate yourself from that and decide like, is this something that I actually want is harder than what most people ever think or realize, you know?
That's like, really interesting, man. That's really, so here's another question. Here's a question. Can someone that is in that belief system of I need to acquire this thing because it seems to be valued among other people, can they get into that, how do they get and transfer themselves into that mindset where they're able to not give up and really look within themselves to find out what they really want?
Well, I think, you know, it's probably a path that very few people would ever want to walk, which is like to actually be alone and to try to sit with your own feelings of discomfort.
That is that's pretty much how it feels to be a personal trainer. I feel like, especially if you're independent. If you're independent, it's like you against the wolves. It may feel like that sometimes, but I think that the future of this industry depends on independent people, independent trainers working together and collaborating, because we don't have people like, too many people like yourself teaching people how to do the thing, our craft en masse, you know, and that's what makes it easier for us to look within. It's like, okay, Pat's really successful at this, and they look at your Instagram following and they look at, you know, what you've done, but you've gotten there from just doing the thing, not by chasing the clout. People are emulating the end result, right, and not the process it took you to get there. You know,
it's not something. I'm not an overnight success story.
Nah, man, you've been doing this a long time.
I started lifting weights in 1994.
Wow, dude.
Like I started mixed martial arts in 1999. Like
Tito Ortiz was probably
he was the dude.
That was a dude back then.
I'll never forget his entry.
With the flag
Limp
and
Bizkit's break stuff. He had the Mexican flag on one side
and the American flag
on the other side. He had that hat pulled down. He was just kind of
the flame shorts.
Yeah, man.
I had him on my wall as a kid.
Legendary.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's a different place now, but back then it was like
he was that dude.
He was that dude. He was, man. People forget him and Chuck Liddell. Like
that was
There was no ground and pound. There was no like cage walk to get back up. They invented these like tools for you to use. Anyway,
team punishment.
Yeah.
So man, my story is like one that kind of starts really, I think, like in like basements. You know what I mean? Like just grinding away every damn day. You know, me sitting with books in libraries. You know, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night.
Same.
You know, me just like logging those hours. You know, I back in high school, like, you know, I never really fit in with any particular group. Like I played sports, I was good at sports, but like in the wintertime, I'd like take my backpack, take a TV cable, tie the cable around my waist, put some weights in the backpack, and do sprints towing it along a field. You know what I mean? Like,
wow, man.
Running hills in the wintertime, like not with anybody else, just by myself.
Right.
So this is not an overnight success story.
No, it's clearly is not.
It's, you know, I think when I got into this field, like I said, it was like, you know, I'm willing to read almost anything to figure out whatever little 1% piece of information I can to take myself physically to another level, you know? And even now, it's kind of like, I still train like I'm going to have to go into the NFL Combine tomorrow or something like that.
I have the same mentality. Like, you know, if I get called in to, you know, hey, man, GSP's down here. You want to, like, spar and work with these guys? I don't want to be like, oh, man, I've been eating like shit for 2 weeks and I can't. I want to be able to do that, you know?
So
I feel exactly the same way.
I don't know what some people are after in some ways.
What do you mean?
Like, I feel like there's some people, they don't really want to train. They don't really want to put in that grind work. And they want some kind of just, you know, just like a recognition piece. Like, it's just purely this external validation sort of a seeking brain. And we all have this desire for external validation. There's no doubt about that. But like, it's the shortcuts, you know?
Right.
It's kind of like, hey, if you're literally, 21 years old and you think you can just jump to the front of the line, no matter how smart you are or whatever, like, it's like almost like a lack of appreciation of
Right.
how much effort and time and how much of a process those before you put into it.
Right.
To allow the feel, kind of what you were talking about with Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell.
Right.
Like, nowadays guys can do moves like that nobody knew how to do back then.
Right.
And they learn it very quickly. But they don't kind of appreciate the
process of getting
evolution
there.
that
Right.
led to somebody even creating that in the first place.
These guys paved the way. You and people like you, like my mentor, Rich Beretta. Do you know Rich Beretta?
I don't. No.
Oh man, he's like former Miss America. He used to work with the Equinox families back in the back in the day when they first started, and he used to work with David Barton. He was my mentor. You remind me a lot of him actually.
Yeah.
He's like, except like I don't know, like I've got to get him on the show. I'm trying to get him on the show, but he's a little bit of a darker character, I would say, But he had the same mentality. This is a solo sport. You
Yeah.
have to fortify yourself, and he paved the way for many trainers,
Yeah.
And when I think of martial arts, I think about the masters that came before me, because the things that I learned and the things that I grow and adapt will change, the landscape that I influence. But I wouldn't be anything without those people.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be anything without my mentors and people like yourself and influencing the environment around us. So I don't know. It's a big part of like every culture that I love. Like, hip hop samples other things,
Yep.
but it's paying homage to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Veneration for the ancestors.
Exactly. They died for you to live, man. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't be here without them. So I think that's a huge part of me expressing my art form as well. Speaking of art forms, can you tell us a little bit more about what was it? Athletic Weapon.
Yeah.
What is Athletic Weapon?
So it's an online program that I sell for people to be able to follow,
Sick.
but it's literally what I do.
It's what you do every single day.
Yeah.
Awesome. Does it come with a nutrition plan, the whole
It
nine?
doesn't come with a nutrition plan because that's something that that's an individualized thing. Like in some ways, like I create, I've been doing Athletic Weapon formally since last February. It's been basically about a year really that this thing has been kind of rolling.
Awesome.
And it's in the 5th block right now. And so I'll write, like I'll write the entire program for a block at a time.
Okay.
And
For those at home that don't understand blocks,
Yep.
what is a block?
So, for instance, like I'm in block 5 right now.
Okay.
And block 5 is specifically targeted towards building muscle mass.
Got you.
Okay.
Clearly.
So it's, yeah, I mean, it's like, and I've gained 13 pounds in 13 weeks. in
That's
this block.
amazing.
It's a 22-week block.
Wow.
And, but a block is a focused time period
Okay.
where you're going to concentrate on 1 or 2 variables.
Got you.
And while you're concentrating on those 1 or 2, you're going to try to maintain the other qualities that you built beforehand. So
Yeah.
the other qualities that were built previously were endurance, speed, elasticity, and those are still somewhere, some form in the program right now.
Right.
But just to a much lesser extent,
Right.
as the big lifting volume has kind of taken precedent right now.
Right.
And so, but it's kind of like I'm only doing this block because of veneration for the ancestors, the ones that came before. It's like
Right.
it's been a preparatory thing, and it kind of eventually it sort of just phases in and out of
Right.
focuses.
Right.
Where it probably tends to be because we're in New York and the weather is what it is, kind of like the summer being more of an outdoor speed, agility
Right,
focused thing, and then the winters being more of a lift weights, put on muscle mass kind of a thing.
That explains the inadvertently the culture of personal training and training out here to a T.
Yeah.
You see everybody's out because we can't be outside like in San Diego, California, just like running drills on the track
Yep.
every single day.
Yeah.
And you can really tell the difference between how people train here and how they train on the West Coast because of that. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I never really put that together until
The
right now.
environment makes a big difference.
Yeah. 'Cause we don't have enough. We don't have a ton of space. Like
Right.
You can just get a warehouse somewhere in the middle of the country and just like push a sled forever.
Yep.
You know, we got like, you know, what is this, like 25 feet, 30 feet? You know,
we make it work.
we make it happen.
Yeah.
You know,
But yeah, like athletic weapon is, you know, I want to make it as available for people as possible. I make it a pretty low price point. It's $35 a month.
awesome.
And you get, I write the program in month-long segments. You know, that way I'm able to make modifications and adjustments like as it's kind of going. There's a big picture plan. You know, the blocks are, you know, put together as a thought process, and then I phase them out. Like this one is 5 phases. I usually put a name on it, like this is the 5-finger death punch.
Lovely.
The previous block that was the outdoor running block was called the 5-body blade. So it was
I like
5
that.
phases.
Right.
And it was kind of based on like, you know, so I always try to create like a muse that I write about. You know, the 5-body blade the muse is the katana sword in Japan.
Right.
And the ranking system was how many bodies can the sword cut through. The worst swords are 1-body blades, the best swords are 5-body blades.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the most lit program name I've ever heard in my life. I have to say, bro. That's
So
pretty
like,
fucking cool.
phase 1 was the 1-body blade.
Right.
It was like, you know, intro to the program, kind of get your feet wet.
Right.
Get it going, and then it just went 2-body blade, 3-body blade, 4-body blade, and the finisher was the 5-body blade.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, you've transformed your body. I've watched your progress from February to today, and you look like a completely different human.
Yeah.
You know, how old are you?
42.
Wow. I mean, I think that you know, a lot of people, 30-year-old friends of mine, they're just complaining about like,
I'm
you know,
too
how,
old.
yeah, like, oh, you know, like that's complete nonsense. Come on, dude. Like, if you have the mechanics, if you have the know-how to do it, it's $35.
Yeah.
You know, you can transform your whole life. This man's transformed his whole life several times.
Definitely not for everybody.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't advise this program as being something that like a beginner should try to do.
Okay.
It's like, but if you are very serious and you really want to train,
Right.
like, and like I said, this is what I do. Like, I'm not gonna put a program together for myself unless I think it's the absolute most devastating thing I can possibly do.
I love it.
It's, you know, there's parts where it phases up and parts where it phases down.
Right.
You know, I really try to apply as much exercise science to it as I possibly can. You know, you talked about nutrition. Like, I'll write conceptually probably what I think you should be doing in terms of how to match the food with the training.
Right.
It's kind of like, hey, if you're doing this block right now and you're under eating, see you later. Like, what do you think? Like,
Right.
this is insane. Like,
Right.
If you really, like, there's no point in trying to gain muscle mass unless you know that you're in a surplus diet.
Exactly. If people are having trouble navigating that, can they contact you directly if they having issues?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
I mean, I've never minded that. Like, people usually send me messages even without me, like, letting me know that they can, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's usually, like, just logistical problems of, like, hey, I bought this program and I can't get it when I click on the link or something like that. And
Right.
I'm like, I don't even know how to help you. I'll help you with
That's an IT issue, my
yeah,
friend.
like, I'll
yeah.
send you to someone that can help you with that.
Yeah.
And then it's usually, like, they just didn't, I don't know. Like, there's always something silly, but...
the on button, right.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, but congratulations on that. That sounds amazing. I think I'm gonna have to try that. I think I'm gonna have to try the athletic weapon.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've seen the kind of fun you've been having on the gym floor.
It's
brutal.
It's
workouts.
yeah. I try to start it off like reasonable, but it very quickly kind of gets to a realm of like, okay, we are working here.
Right.
This is no joke.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, I mean, there's very few things in life I take all that seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like my conversations to be frivolous and, you know,
Light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not all. You know what I'm saying?
I know what
like,
you're saying, brother.
When it comes to training, though, like this is a passion of mine, and
Same.
I want to make sure that for me, I don't ever want to stop pushing the envelope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not in my DNA.
Yeah. Same.
Like,
yeah.
I'm hoping that I'm 70 years old, and people are like, God damn. Like,
Right.
what?
Exactly.
How? Like,
I want to peak when I'm 80. I want to, you know what I mean? Like Jesus Christ.
I'm never going to take my foot off the gas pedal. You know, like any excuse that I've ever heard, it's like, I don't think that's real.
Right.
I think if I just keep dialing it in more and more and more in every area, then it's just like, there's no reason. Like, I'm not gonna let this thing, with all its conditioning and narratives that it hears from people about how you gotta shut it down or slow it down or whatever.
Right.
I'm not gonna believe those stories.
Huh. So Pat, you've been teaching people for, over 2 decades now, I believe, right? And what do you use what kind of techniques do you use to connect with your clientele and the people that you work with so that you can kind of step into their shoes and see things from their perspective to meet them where they are?
Well, I can say that, so I've been in New York for 7 years. And when
Really? That's it?
I had a previous stint where I was at Brooklyn College for 2. So
Okay.
I got 9 years in New York.
Okay.
Just like an interlude in the middle.
What were you before? Where are you from, man?
I'm from Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
We're like born enemies. No, I'm
Yeah,
just
for
kidding.
sure,
Right?
man.
Like, dude,
Yeah,
you a Sox fan?
100%, yeah.
Holy shit.
I don't
This
understand.
interview is over, guys. I'm sorry.
So, as a complete aside, I don't understand when people are like Cowboys, Yankees, Duke fans.
That makes no sense
when they're
at all.
not from the, you know what I mean?
Any of those places.
Yeah. Why are you a fan of this thing?
Because they just want to win. And
That's
whenever
it, yeah.
they made their selection, they were winning. Like, you know how many New York Cowboys fans there are?
What is
Millions.
going on here?
Deion Sanders is what was
Troy
going
Aikman
on.
is not walking through that door anytime
No, he's
soon.
not.
Michael Irvin's not coming back.
He's not coming back, baby.
Yep.
So,
You got
I don't know.
You got McCarthy,
That's it.
and you got bad clock management. That's what you got. So
That's a whole other podcast.
anyways, yeah, no, I mean, you get to root for the team where you're from.
That's it.
And that's all you get.
That's all you get. You
Yeah.
got the Knicks. Nets are questionable act. We don't have to explain anything.
Yeah.
You got the Knicks, you got Yankees, you got Mets, you got Rangers are doing pretty good right now.
I don't know, hockey,
That's all we got, baby. Come
Yeah.
on, work with me
Yeah.
here. We're like, Rangers is all we got right now in New
hockey's still a
York.
thing? I don't even know. I
Yes,
never
it
learned to
is,
skate.
and we're bringing that Stanley Cup home. I guarantee it. Those words will not bite me on the ass later. So
Anyways, for working with people,
Working with people.
I kind of came from a background of MMA, transitioning to education, academia, just driving that train really far,
Right.
being around people super serious with strength and conditioning and then exercise physiology. Then I was a professor and I was competing in strongman and coaching a team of student athletes that were competing in strongman, powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFit, bodybuilding.
wow.
Yeah, we called it Team Iron Sports.
Yeah, no shit. That's like the hardest things to do in the world.
Yeah. And they were so they would be like my students and I would coach them and compete with them.
Wow, awesome.
And so I came from that as my background and then moved to Manhattan and tried to work with coaching general population people and personal training.
General
I was
population for regular people is
not
regular people.
I was not a good fit for it at the time.
For general pop, yeah, because like as personal trainers, like every personal trainer, right? We're trained to train athletes. All the curriculum that we're taught, NASM, wherever you're certified, we're here to train LeBron James. We're not trained to,
No, it's a totally different world.
absolutely.
And I was at peak performance.
You were at
Wealthiest-
Peak?
Yeah.
Dude, Berettas is right across the street from Peak.
Okay.
We were like
now the
neighbors.
name is-
Now,
now the name is
yeah,
clicking.
bro. We
Yeah.
were like neighbors this whole
Yeah.
time for a decade, and we didn't even.
So yeah, you're from that's as wealthy a client group as you can get.
Right.
They are coming from a world that you don't understand. You know what I mean? As their personal trainer, you're kind of on the same level as their driver, their doorman,
Right.
their
You're like
stable boy.
the help.
Who, yeah, you
Stable
are
boy.
well, so I saw this guy come in to work out.
Okay.
And he had just come from his equestrian lesson, or I don't even know what you call it. He had the whole riding outfit on. The boots, the tight pants, the hat, the whole thing.
Couldn't change.
I see this fool pushing a sled across the floor in that. Yeah, I was like, what is going on? Is this like a jockey for the Kentucky Derby?
Yo,
No, he's just a finance guy that just
didn't have the time to change.
yeah, I'm this guy's got FU money.
Right.
He doesn't care. He's like, yeah, I'm wearing my horse clothes. I don't care.
Come on.
Yeah. I do whatever I want whenever I want to.
Right.
So I had no idea how to talk to these people. I had no idea what the common language was. I didn't look the part, didn't act the part. I had to learn a whole new population, a whole new culture.
Right.
From the perspective of what they value, how they communicate, everything.
Right.
And that's what you have to do if you're going to be successful with any population. You have to learn their culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're an outsider. You don't make sense. Like, there's going to be this huge head-butting, complete misunderstanding sort of a thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm from the street, so I'm from the Lower East Side. So it's like, people talk to me about their equestrian lessons or like how their driver was late.
Yeah.
Or, you know, but you know what's crazy? I think about the people that are attracted to me. If you notice, I'm sure you've noticed that a lot of trainers look like their clients and vice versa, right? You kind of like attract the people that kind of like look like us. I always was different. I always had like, you know, so-and-so from the Upper West Side, but like was curious about like training, and then for some reason they were attracted to me. Or I have like the most diverse book I've ever seen.
Most people's book is the same person over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I'm like, so no one really could teach me how to do that.
Mine was all over the place too.
Yeah, because
all over the place.
You know what I think it is? Personality. You know, that you're willing to listen. Like, okay, be curious about what it is that they have to say.
Sometimes, and then there's some people where you're like, oh God, like.
See, we try not to get there. We try not to.
It's tough, but at a certain point, it's just kind of like, wow, this is not working. And I think one of the most important things you can do is call it when it's not working too.
That's true.
Because there's always someone else that's probably a better fit for that person.
That is true,
and
too.
It has very little to do with how much exercise science you know.
Right.
Or whatever. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or with them.
Right.
It's just together
it's not a good
that
fit.
Just doesn't work. It's like dating. I really like.
It's exactly like dating.
Training and dating are so similar. It's not even fun.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like making that initial connection,
right?
But then sustaining the relationship over time. And they're two different dynamics.
Precisely. You know? That's literally what my seminar is about. So how to build rapport and how to maintain it. A lot of newer trainers, they know all the exercise science. They have all the letters next to their name, but they can't communicate with people or listen to people. So I figured that, you know what? Also, seasoned guys too, they know how to empathize, but then they're taking all this baggage home with them because, you know,
they load you up with it.
They load you up. You got 8 sessions a day. You got 8 different personalities, psychologies, and backgrounds that you have to take with you. And now you come home and you're just like, your head's spinning. Now I got to deal with my own shit. So that's what this seminar is about mental health and communication.
I think that we have tough jobs on that front because
100%.
You know,
we're not really equipped to handle that stuff.
No,
as trainers.
We're not.
You know?
We're not. There's other disciplines that are.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And we kind of think we are because we're forced to sort of deal with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's, I would say, I think that it's just like a lot of things, that which works in the beginning is not the same thing that works long term after the beginning stages have been complete.
Right.
And so to understand kind of the dynamics of timing and evolution and development of any particular thing, I think is so important. Because, you know, if you've had the same client for 5 years, you're on autopilot. The same way as if you've been in the same relationship with someone for 5 years, you can get on autopilot.
Very easily.
And then that becomes something that's a huge problem.
Right. So I think that the same approach that you have for your own training, where you're never taking your foot off the gas, I think that having that kind of malleable understanding of where I need to be for that person and for myself, well, for myself first. And then, I know it's very hard to do when you're a passionate trainer, but you've got to differentiate the two. If I'm able to keep the foot on the gas with like, okay, what else can I do? What else? How else can I challenge myself or challenge this person? Because if you're bored as a trainer, guess what? They're fucking bored too. And it doesn't matter what kind of block or program you got going on. If the relationship isn't good, it's not going to work out, man.
It's not. And to me, relationships are about growth. And effort. And like, so many times you hear this stuff like, if it's meant to be, it's easy.
When has it been fucking easy?
That's not true. That's just you being complacent.
Right. Hoping that things just fall into place for you while
No,
it's not how it works, bro.
That's not how it works.
No, sir.
Anything worth having is going to be challenging.
And it's going to require effort. If you love it, you're going to have to fight for it, you know? So I feel the same way about relationships. If you have that same attitude towards how we train people, And that's why I'm so passionate about, communication aspect of training. Because once you get, there's only so many things the body does, right? Once you understand how the body works, you just do that.
Yes.
And then you create a change in the body, and then you, that's it.
This reminds me of my MMA days. My
Right.
coach was like, listen, there's only so many ways you can break an arm.
That's right.
You put your hips in the armpit.
Right.
You get it here. You can do that from your back. You can do that from on top. You can do it from standing.
Right.
But ultimately, the puzzle piece goes in the shoulder socket, and boom.
That's it.
Or boom.
Right.
And that's all you've got.
And what changes is your position.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
But the end of the thing
Right.
is the same.
Exactly.
So it is kind of like you can become complacent in that. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
And then, but look, like the world is flux.
Right.
Everything is always changing.
Right.
And if your mind doesn't stay flexible with that and appreciate that, like, you are never in the same place. Even if you think you are, everything's always changing around you.
100%.
You know? Like, yes, there are categories of how things fit, but your perception of those categories is the thing that really needs to remain constantly evolving over time.
100%.
And the same thing in terms of people and relationships. Because, yeah, like you're the same person, but you're going through your life,
Right.
which is constantly something that's going to keep you on your toes, and you have to work and keep up with all of the demands that you're going to face. And if I am someone that's supposed to be close to you in your life, and I'm not paying attention and saying like, hey, what's going on? Like, how are you doing? Is there something going on with you that like you're struggling with?
Right.
If there is, like, you can talk to me about it. Like, I'm here. You're important to me. I want to know how you're doing. Like, that's to me, that's what needs to be there. And it's hard because sometimes you can be so overwhelmed with your own stuff where you're like, I can't.
Right.
But that's not acceptable.
What do you think about practices for personal trainers to be more acclimated, or I think what we left off at, let me start off like this.
Yeah.
With having the mental plasticity, training the mental plasticity to adapt to all these changes. And what if we could somehow predict those ebbs and flows in our clients and ourselves' life cycle, right? Like, because things happen in a seasonal kind of way.
Yeah.
You can kind of predict when you're going to be feeling like shit. And it's not just because of the weather. It's because you're running yourself into the ground and you're not aware of patterns that you're constantly executing, but you're not really being aware that that's what's really kind of hurting you.
Yeah.
I think that the next phase or the future of personal training in this population is more of a self-help or personal development angle. Because once you learn all of those things, it's kind of, once you learn how to break an arm, it's kind of, that's what it is. But the higher up you go, the more I realize the better I am with people, the better of a trainer I become, and the more convincing I am that it's a good idea to listen to what I have to say.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that...
Yeah. So, to me, like the universe is a big fractal phenomenon.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
every part of it has every other part of it inside of itself.
Right.
So if you are from the universe, you are of the universe.
Right.
So you are a similar like hall of mirrors as a person.
Right.
And like even you as like the operator in your own mind that understands who you are, there's someone else behind that. Like there's this just never-ending cascade of mirror reflections of yourself that are slightly different perceptive angles of evaluating yourself.
Right.
But you can get lost in your own reflection very easily, and being able to try to crack through and see yourself as deeply as you can and listen to all the different modules and basically just, do you have the courage to go inside and really pull yourself apart?
Right.
Look at yourself in an uncompromising way and evaluate your strengths and your weaknesses.
Evaluate, not judge.
Yeah.
Evaluate. That's an excellent word.
But like, I think that in order to be able to connect with other people more effectively, you can only do that by connecting with yourself more effectively.
100%.
And the way that you're going to do that is by also in reverse. Like you'll learn more about yourself by paying more attention to other people. And the parts of other people that you don't like, pay attention to those things.
Right, because it's really reflecting the things you don't like
Yeah.
about yourself. If you can't forgive someone, there's someone you can't forgive or that you have an issue with, it's probably because there's an aspect of them that you dislike about yourself.
Yeah.
And once you reconcile that thing with you, it'd be a lot more easier to reconcile that with that person, most likely.
So, to me, like, the ability for a trainer to continue to evolve as a person is this, like, the ability to really have this time to reflect on who they are,
Right,
and then to also think about who other people are, and to ask more questions of other people.
right,
Not just like wait for the other person to stop talking so that you can start saying whatever it was that you were already going to say.
that's right,
Because are you really taking them in?
exactly.
You know, probably not at a certain point. Like, so it is about like trying to break patterns. Like,
Right.
because we are just like underneath our shells, like we are these kind of like electrical patterns that are just kind of recreating already known experiences.
Right,
In kind of an unconscious way.
right,
Where the awareness of maybe how you're hurting other people or yourself or perpetuating pain out into the world is something that like you're blind to.
right,
And that's the thing that you're always trying to grow beyond, you know? But you have to first see it for what it is. Like,
Right.
go into your shadows,
right,
understand them. Like, don't just reject them and pretend like they're not there.
right,
Like, I almost picture like a Clockwork Orange, where it's like you have to hold your own eyes open and look at it.
right,
Like, really look at it. Don't look away. Don't be an ostrich with your head in the sand, pretending like your shadows aren't there. Embrace them.
exactly.
And if you do that, it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's where the growth happens.
Right,
And if you can learn your own shadows and the parts of yourself, you're going to be much more open
right,
for other people.
because you can accept yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, I think most people's the biggest fear is just that. If you really knew who I was,
Yeah.
you would never accept who I am.
Yeah,
And if you can accept yourself, it's so much easier to accept other people.
it is.
You know?
And you begin to realize that it is just this never-ending hall of mirrors.
That's right.
So the parts of you that you don't like about yourself are probably going to be so similar to the parts of me I don't like about myself.
Right.
And if I, like, to me, not everyone is someone that you create that kind of bond with.
Right.
Like, a lot of people will offer a hand to you,
Sure.
but is that hand one that's going to try to drag you down to the depths where they are?
Right.
Or is it going to try to lift you up?
Exactly.
And that's something that you have to determine.
Right.
You know? Because
Right.
there's parts of you that could drag someone down, there's
right.
parts of you that could lift someone up.
Exactly.
You have to first and foremost be trying to lift yourself up, and if you create that as your path in life, now you can begin to try to recognize others who are doing the same,
Right.
and understand that like together we can create more buoyancy. And finding that and creating a community around that is something that to me is a very important mission.
That's my goal as well, man. That's my goal as well. And on that note, I accept you as a Boston Red Sox fan, even though you are a sworn enemy of mine.
But we're coming from a similar perspective,
Well, we're coming from a
because
similar
neither
place.
of us are Cowboys fans.
That's right. That's a wrap. Peace.